Hello everybody and welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. Before we get into this Deck Tech upgrade, all I ask is that if you enjoy the video, leave a like and consider subscribing. Now that that's out of the way, let's take a look at Mishra's Burnished Banner Precon deck. This deck wants to sacrifice a lot of artifacts, gaining value off of sacrificing them, entering the battlefield, and also bringing them back. The one thing I see that we can instantly do to make this deck better is swap out the commander for Ashnod the Uncaring. This is going to double up on our effects whenever we sacrifice an artifact and generate a lot more value than Mishra, the eminent one. We still are going to leave Mishra in the deck though, because he's going to be really efficient at copying our artifacts. That way we can get their ETBs again and then just sacrifice them. So he's going to be really useful in the deck. I'm a lot more happy with the value they put in this deck as opposed to Urza. But the one thing it's going to fall into is turning into a solitaire deck, where you're playing solitaire, drawing a lot of cards, going through your deck, but you never win, because there's not a lot of win conditions in the deck. Although it's going to function really good out of the box, you might not find yourself winning games and be confused why. So we're going to upgrade it to where you can win some games with this deck and smash your opponents. Let's kick off this upgrade guide with makeshift munitions. This is going to deal damage to our opponents or any target whenever we sacrifice an artifact. Notably, our commander is going to double that, making it 2 damage, which is going to add up over the course of a game. Marionette Master, I'm baffled that this was in Urza, but not in this deck, because this deck wants to sacrifice all of the artifacts in it, and while we're doing that, Marionette Master is just going to do a lot of damage. Finally, Agent of the Iron Throne. I've been including this in treasure-heavy decks and artifact-heavy decks, so it's going to fit right at home here. Over the course of a game, this will win you it. Next up, there is 4 artifact cards that will make sure you have access to your graveyard at every point in the game. Mirror Retriever, Scrap Trawler, Junk Diver, and Workshop Assistant. These guys are going to be able to loop through your graveyard. You can sacrifice them for value, and you're going to be able to go infinite with a couple of them with a Clark Clan Ironworks. I know this card's pretty expensive, but the value you're going to get from it, that's why I justified putting it in this deck. Like I said, it does enable you to go infinite, which is one of the ways that this deck is going to win. Finally, let's get some value off of Brea's Apprentice. This guy's going to enter the battlefield. You're going to get a Thopter, and then you can just start sacrificing artifacts to be able to cast some cards from the top of your library. We then have Dockside Chef. This one, you're just going to sacrifice an artifact, and notably you're going to draw 2 cards off of this, your commanders out on the battlefield. Same thing with Brea. You'll get the exile the top card of your library 2 times instead of just once. So that's going to be really good value. Anchor of Reality, while this isn't going to trigger off of our commander because it's a sorcery, it is a really good tutor card that's just going to get you the artifact you want onto the battlefield. So notably, we're going to be searching up that Clark Clan Ironworks. We then have Moon Silver Key. This one's really efficient because this is going to get you 2 mana rocks, Soul Ring, and whatever else you want. There's a lot of mana rocks in the deck, so this has a lot of options to it. Finally, we have Fabricate. Like I said, we are going to be trying to go infinite, so we do want a couple tutors just to make the deck more consistent. Alright, let's go over the infinite combo real quick so you guys don't have to go searching for it. We've got, obviously, Croc Clan Ironworks, and then Servo Schematic. When Servo Schematic enters the battlefield, or leaves the battlefield, put a 1/1 colorless Servo artifact creature token onto the battlefield. So notably, you'll get 3 artifacts to sacrifice off of that for Clark Clan. You're going to get the Servo Schematic itself, the creature it creates, which is also an artifact creature, right? And then when it leaves the battlefield, it'll create another artifact creature, so you'll be able to sacrifice it too. So that nets you 6 mana. Then you play one of those cards I mentioned earlier that's going to get you a card or artifact card from your graveyard, such as Junk Diver. It's going to return it to your hand, and then you'll go ahead and play Servo Schematic again. So this is going to give you infinite artifact die triggers and infinite colorless mana. So all you'll need then is Agent of the Iron Throne, Marionette Master, and or makeshift munitions, and you can win from there. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into what I cut. Slow Bad Goblin Tinkerer. This one, I mean, we don't really need to give our artifacts indestructible because we're going to be sacrificing them anyway. So doesn't seem like very useful. Finn the Fine Broker. While he does give a lot of value, you have to tap him, and he only does it once per turn unless you want to pay that 4 mana, which I do not. So I went ahead and cut him. Glint Raker, this guy I went ahead and cut him because it requires you to have a pretty big artifact onto the battlefield. If you don't have a pretty big artifact onto the battlefield, you're basically just looking at your top 2-3 cards, you know, so I went ahead and cut him. Padim, Console of Innovation. It's conditional card draw. I really don't like conditional card draw in a deck unless you're positive you're going to be able to do it, which, I mean, you're not positive you're going to have the biggest artifact on the field all the time. Hellkite Igniter. This guy's really expensive, and again, you know, he's very conditional, so we went ahead and took him out. Workshop Elders, although it's a really good effect, it's a 7 mana card, so I went ahead and cut them. Idol of Oblivion. We're not going to really be focusing on creating a lot of tokens because, again, Mishra's not going to be our commander, so I cut this one. Mycosynth Wellspring. There's just a lot more efficient ramp in the deck than this, so we cut that one out. Prophetic Prison. Again, this one's not even ramp because you have to pay the one to tap it. Maybe you could argue it's like 2 mana draw a card, but there's other artifacts that we're going to be sacrificing in the deck that are a lot better than this. Oni Cult Anvil. You get to tap it, and unless you can untap it, it's 2 damage to everybody because of our commander. And, you know, I didn't want to go through that whole untapping shenanigans, infinite combo thing, so I went ahead and just cut it instead. Cursed Mirror. This card's a trap. It's a 3 mana ramp spell, and we don't like those, so we cut it. Smelting Vat. Sacrifice another artifact, reveal the top 8 cards of your library, and then you go ahead and put anything that equals the artifact's converted mana cost onto the battlefield. But a lot of our artifacts are low to the ground, right? So you're going to look at the top 8 cards of your library and maybe put most of them on the bottom of it. So we went ahead and got rid of this. So this card is kind of random, and it can kind of mess up your infinite combo, right? Because at the beginning of your end step, mill 2 cards, then exile a non-land card at random from your graveyard. You could accidentally exile your combo piece and just kind of be screwed. And it's 7 mana, and the effect's kind of random, kind of chaosy, so we went ahead and got rid of that. And with that being said, that's the end of my deck tech upgrade. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you thought of the upgrade. Maybe I shouldn't have cut a couple cards. The one I'm kind of on the edge about is Smelting Vat, but like I said, a lot of those artifacts are low to the ground, so I'm still pretty confident. Thank you guys for giving this a watch, and I'll see you in the next one.